Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Unit 2. We're moving on from our introduction to the three disciplines of anthropology, psychology, and sociology, and we're going to start to get a little bit more specific in what we're going to be studying. This unit is all centered around the individual and the self, and we've kind of got this corny situation of you being stranded on an island, but the idea is that if you take a person out of society and out of civilization and study that person, you'll notice a few things that hopefully you'll notice a few things that you never noticed or even thought of before. So that's the whole reason for the sort of like overlying situation. Before I move on to the actual course and what we're doing this week, just some logistics and answer a few questions. For those of you who got kind of like a scary email from the province over the weekend saying that you were behind in the course or your credit is in danger, those emails are generated automatically for anybody who is behind, and I report on progress at least by the end of the month, and probably halfway through the month as well as we move on. So as long as you are you have things under control and you are working and moving forward, I wouldn't worry too much about it. But for anybody who is kind of stagnating in the course already, and I've had some conversations with people who have admitted that I've been procrastinating, Mr. M. This newfound freedom of going off to the library or wherever you do your e-learning it's been a little bit too much to start off with, and I've ended up playing cards in the cafe instead of doing my social science. Hopefully you've learned a little bit of a lesson in this first unit, and hopefully now you're going to turn things around and start to move forward. For those of you who got through the first unit and you made it through on time, well done. And I bet you it feels good to be starting Unit 2 without having to worry about any work from Unit 1. So where are we? You are starting off this unit and learning about the individual and the self through the eyes of sociologists, psychologists, and anthropologists, and you're going to be examining different theories and different ideas, and just sort of like thinking about like who people really are, what an individual really is. And eventually at the end of the first lesson, you're going to get to the first 20-minute experiment. So stepping back a little bit, for the first unit, I pretty much kept the course the way that I found it. I didn't change very much. I just sort of like went with the activities that were there. But I've decided for this unit that I want to do a few things differently. And one of those things is I'd like you to be able to do some little experiments. And these experiments are meant to be fun, but like useful at the same time. So we're not doing them just for kicks. Like there's something to actually be learned out of these experiments, but because they're small and they're easy to run, and they're about things that hopefully you find interesting, my hope is that it's going to make you enjoy what you're learning a little bit more, and then you'll look forward to learning it. So with these little labs, all I'm really looking for is evidence that you've performed the lab, and I want to see if you've learned anything from the lab. So the first one you're going to get to has to do with, what do people really think of when they think of you? Who are you as an individual? So one of the concepts you're going to be learning about as you do the content is about identity and who a person really is versus who they appear to be on the outside. And identity is kind of it's simple yet complicated. It seems so simple because you yourself know who you are, hopefully, although as a teenager, a lot of you are probably still figuring that out. As an adult, I'm still kind of figuring it out too. But I think I've got a pretty decent sense of who I am at this point. It did take me 37 years to figure that out though. So as somebody half my age, you may still not be clear on what your identity is. But the question is, which counts? Is it who I think I am that counts, or is it who other people say that I am who counts? So we have this other aspect of identity where we get an identity kind of like created for us or imposed on us based on how other people perceive us. So your first experiment, the goal is to see, is the outward identity that you are putting on the same as the inward identity that you feel is really true. So you're going to try to describe yourself with some adjectives, like descriptive words. You can Google any terms that you come across in this course to see what they are. Adjective is hopefully a term that you're acquainted with, though, from elementary school. A person could be nice, they could be kind, they could be generous, they could be brave, they could be courageous, they could be, I think I said kind already, they could be some negative things as well. They could be envious, they could be aggressive, they could be short-tempered. Those are adjectives that we use to describe people. I want you to come up with adjectives that describe you. And then you're going to get people using secret ballots, people who aren't really close friends to you, but people who do know you, to come up with adjectives that they think describe you. And then you're going to see what they came up with and compare it to what you had. And here's what you may find. You may find that they came up with the same adjectives as you, in which case it would suggest that the identity that really is you, according to you, is also what you're putting out there. You may find that nobody comes up with those adjectives, though, which might suggest that the identity that you're putting forth, the you that you put out there, is not the real you, that you're putting on something. Like there's psychology that I use for things related to careers called it's True Colors theory, and it's based on Maslow's hierarchy. And the idea is that people play roles, and they create a role for themselves, and instead of being who they really are, they sort of put forward this facade, and maybe that's what's going on, is you're putting forth a facade. Or you may find somewhere in between, you may also find that there's like a lot of confusion in the results you get, like everybody's coming up with different adjectives. But probably what you'll find is that people are coming up with the same adjectives, and the interesting thing is, what happens when a group of people agree that you are this, but you don't think you are? Like, what does that actually say about your identity? Like, when people think that you are confident, when you feel that you are shy, or when people think that you are kind-hearted, when you deep down feel that I'm actually kind of selfish, or the opposite, people feel that you're selfish when you believe that you're kind-hearted. What does that mean? And that's kind of like what we're going to try to discover with this experiment, is to see, what do people think of you in terms of identity? What do you think your identity is? And when you compare those two things, what implications do you come up with? By implications, I mean, like, you know, what does this say? How do I interpret these results? What does this say about the kind of me I'm putting forth as I go about my daily business? So the experiments, I call them 20-minute experiments because the experiment part should take about 20 minutes to do. Then you've got to kind of like do the write-up, but the write-up is pretty minor, and I'm not expecting you to, to do a huge amount of work. I give you a framework that you kind of copy and paste, and you only have to adjust 3 parts of it. So you have to come up with a hypothesis, which is your best guess at the research question. So if the research question is, I forget how I worded it, but if it's something along the lines of, is the identity that I put forward the same as what I feel it really is, then you're going to take a guess at that. You might say, I feel that people are going to say the same things about me that I say about myself. I feel that the identity I put forth is my true identity. Or you might say, I'm pretty sure that I am putting forth an identity in public that is not really who I am in private. Or, you know, a combination of those things. You take your best educated guess, then you perform the experiment. As you're performing the experiment, or interpreting the results in this case, you're going to make a few observations. So I've got a few things that I'd like you to sort of like respond to under observations, and then finally your conclusions. So to what extent was your hypothesis correct, and what are the implications of that? So what did you learn about yourself? So that activity hopefully doesn't take you too long, and hopefully you find interesting. And I think I'm going to have a poll at some point during the unit to find out if you're enjoying this type of activity, because I've got no problem with creating these for you. I've got one coming up ahead in lesson 3 for you as well that I've already designed. And I'm hoping that you're going to enjoy doing that, and that it's going to maybe reveal something to you about yourself that you hadn't thought about before. So anyways, that's where we are. We're starting off the unit, and you're going to have content to go through. You're going to have some assignments, and some of those assignments are going to involve these little experiments. Also, the discussions. Everybody is so polite in the discussion board. Everybody is always so quick to jump in and say, hey, that's a great idea, regardless of what the idea is. For this unit, I'm actually going to require you to disagree with people from time to time. So just be aware that that's going to come up. And when you disagree with somebody, that's not a sign of disrespect. Respectfully disagreeing is why we've got all these different psychologists and sociologists and anthropologists. If everybody agreed on everybody else's ideas, we would all just be Jamesian psychologists. We would just have taken James's theories and just said, yep, that's the right way, that that's it, and we're not going to move forward. Respectfully disagreeing to people's ideas forces that person to defend their ideas, and by defending ideas, those ideas get stronger and stronger. And also any ideas that aren't strong, they sort of fall by the wayside, and what we're left with are the strongest ideas. So I'm going to be requiring you to respectfully disagree from time to time. When you do that, just disagree not with the person, but with their ideas. Pick out the thing that you disagree with and explain why you disagree with it in a respectful tone. So that's it. As always, make sure that you email me and let me know if you're having any troubles or if you need any help.